All the action packed in 180 minutes. Power Breakfast with Tessa Dooms. Weekdays 6 to 9 a.m.
The time is 8:14. You're on Power Breakfast this morning with Tessa Dooms. We've been following a story over the last few weeks around the National Lottery Commission and the new service provider that has been brought into the National Lottery to replace Ituba. Of course, over the next few months, there'll be this handover process. I don't know. I think Ituba has been there for many, many years now, so it's going to be a big change over. But of course, there have been questions raised with Sizakaya Holdings, which is the company that is now the new operator, in terms of how that contract was awarded, because, of course, questions have been raised about their connections to political actors like the Deputy President. So we've brought in Prof. Brani Patiana from the National Lotteries Board to just talk to us about that process and what do we make of the allegations that are likely floating around. I don't think anyone has made, for example, a criminal allegation as yet, but of course these kinds of discussions become part of our public discourse. Thank you so much, Prof. Patiana, for joining us this morning. What is the process that was followed from the point of view of the board that has confidence in the fact that this is the right decision?
Good morning, Tessa. Good morning to your listeners, and thank you very much for the award of an operator of the National Lottery is regulated by the Act, the National Lotteries Act.
Yeah,
and that work starts with the production of a request for proposals to be published for any people who to apply or bid for a lottery license. Ordinarily, the license is for 8 years, although it may be extended in certain circumstances by no more than 2 years. So it has in fact been providing the lottery services for 10 years at this point, because the license was extended 2 years. What then happens is the board approves the request for proposals. The request for proposal then the basis on which people apply. In this instance, we had 8 bidders, which was the largest number of bidders that we've ever had.
Prof. Patiana, I just need to stop you there. Something is wrong with your line, and I do want us to get the information that you're sharing. Can I come back to you in 30 seconds just to give you some time to figure out what might be wrong with your line?
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. On the line with us as well is Tony Chance, an MP, DA MP in Parliament, who's raised questions about the lottery process. And perhaps, Tony, you can give us a sense of what questions you are also bringing to the table here so we can put them to Prof. Patiana.
Yeah, thanks very much, Tessa. It's Toby with a B, just so that you know.
Toby. There we go.
No problem. Thank you. Yeah, no, it is an issue. And first of all, I just want to commend Professor Patiana and his board. They are trying their best to clean up an almighty mess that has been at the Lotto for many, many years. Another issue we maybe want to talk about another time are the corrupt grants that have been issued over many years. But anyway, the point about the Lotto license is that, Ituba had it for 12 years, and the bid process happened from January last year. The recommendation came through in September, and the final decision was made in May. And the issue really is the conflicts of interest between the Sizakaya Holdings, which is the company that was awarded, and some of the shareholders, and particularly Benamont Gaming, which is a shareholder in Sizakaya and is run by the Deputy President's sister-in-law, and Moses Tembi, who's the chair of Sizakaya Holdings. Now, the problem that we have is that conflicts of interest is a grey area. But the Constitution has made it quite clear that any risk of a conflict of interest is sufficient for decisions to be made which would remove that risk. It's not the materialization of the risk, it's the actual risk existing. So what I've asked Minister Tao to do is to launch an investigation into the whole issue of the awarding of the license and unpack what this conflict of interest actually means in practical terms.
In terms of what amounts to what you're calling the risk. Let's go back to Prof. Butiana and put that, Toby, to him as well from the perspective of the board. Prof, I hope that our line is a little bit better. But you've heard...
I hope so too.
You've heard what the DA's concerns are here. Are there potential conflicts of interest? But just take us again through that process of this award and why you have confidence that that should not be a deterrent to this being a good transaction.
It's a very fair question that parliamentarians, especially Mr. Toby, Chance and others are asking. I want to say that throughout the process, the issue of conflict of interest is very clear and it is indeed regulated. For example, the Act makes it clear that nobody maybe who is an investor or from a political party or benefits in any manner whatsoever may actually be considered as a bidder. And the evaluators as well as the adjudicators are also subject to tests in terms of their, and they're supposed to make declarations in a case where conflicts of interest arise. The minister's advisory team, quality assurance advisory team, also has to declare conflicts of interest. Now, in this case, all of those conflicts of interest were declared and they're available and can be seen. And that came to our attention. That the adjudication committee requests independent vetting agencies vet each and every one of the investors in the companies that are bidding, in order to test their conflict of interest, their record as a company, etc. All of that was, and all signs of conflicts and inappropriate qualifications that have followed through when necessary legal opinion is sought. So as far as we're concerned, all of those issues were followed through. However, this particular issue that has now arisen,
and that wasn't declared initially, so you didn't have sight of it until now.
It never became clear. It was never. We were never aware of it. Not that I'm saying that we don't know anything about it, but I am saying if we are aware of it, it would have been investigated. Would have been able to take a position on it. That's the reason that Minister Tao committed to have the matter investigated, because all of it was very new to us as a fact. So it's not an issue that we hide our minds.
Prof, when you go to a bank, for example, you will often get asked if you are a politically exposed person. And that just means, do you have any relations to a politician? Surely that's one of the base questions that should be asked in these kinds of bidding processes, especially when you get to those final vetting stages. As the board, did you see a question like that being posed, and was that information not provided, or is it not a question that was asked? And I know that you didn't make the final decision, which is another question for me about why the board doesn't make this decision and the minister has the final say. But was the question about being a politically exposed person asked?
That question doesn't arise. The question is not law. It is not prescribed in law. It's also not of the policies of the country, PFMA, etc. No, it is not. So that question was never asked, and it must go beyond just being politically exposed. It's got to be somebody who is a member. It's got to be somebody in a political party, or a political party. So we've got to go a little bit
deeper than that.
But that question never arose.
But do you recognize the risk that Toby and others are raising by not asking that question? Do you agree with them that that does create a level of risk?
Well, it does. It is, of course, the problem in instance of so-called fronting, fronting, and a lot of work has been done on fronting. There's a lot of questions about it. Where an allegation that is specific about somebody fronting for somebody else in a manner that is inappropriate, then the law must take its course. All we are saying, we're investigating all these issues, and if there is, for a moment, I'm not sure what the allegation is, whether the allegation is about front or the allegation is about the deputy president having a stake in this matter.
Yeah.
But that matter is under investigation right now. So we are attending to it, and we're seeking legal advice to do a forensic investigation.
Toby, I want to pose the last question to you.
Yeah.
You spoke about this question of the risks that don't need to be material in order for them to matter. But does this not lead us in a situation where anyone who has any relationship to a political figure then is precluded potentially unfairly from being able to do business? How do you mitigate from unfair discrimination while you're also flagging risk?
It's a fair question, Tessa, and I think that's part of what needs to be answered in this investigation. Although it may be beyond the realms of or the bounds of this investigation, we probably need to get the public protector to make a call on this issue. Is again, what is the extent of a conflict of interest, and how broad should that interpretation be? So, for example, one of the red flags is that Delamont Gaming was registered 6 days before the closing date for the submission of the bids for the lotto. And this is a problem. Was this a company just set up to benefit the deputy president and his family?
Yeah.
From the possibility of the company that they invested in winning the tender? These are the sorts of issues which the public are wanting answers to, because corruption is so endemic in our society, and we've just got to find ways of eliminating it wherever possible.
Well, I think Prof. Patiana agrees with you that there's no harm in checking this out and making sure it's a really large tender. And I think that better safe than sorry might be the motto we want to use in this instance. But thank you so much, Prof. Bani Patiana, the chairperson of the National Lotteries Board, and Toby Chance, DA Member of Parliament.